The Bill of Rights, it's one of the most foundational documents in American life. But how well do we really, truly know it? So today, we're going to go beyond just a simple list of rules. We're going to explore these first 10 amendments as a kind of user's guide, a story about the fundamental protections designed for every single citizen. Let's dive in.
So let's start with the big question. What are our fundamental rights, and why on earth was it so important to write them down in the first place? The answer isn't just one simple thing. It's this collection of powerful ideas that are still incredibly relevant to our lives today.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with the fundamental freedoms that really define who we are. Then we'll get into the rights that protect us and our property. From there, we'll look at the specific rights you have if you're accused of a crime. And finally, we'll see how this whole document basically draws a line in the sand to limit what the government can do. Okay, first up, our fundamental freedoms. At the very heart of all this is the First Amendment. You can really think of it as the 5 pillars of personal liberty. And each one is absolutely essential for letting people express themselves and, importantly, challenge their government.
It's honestly amazing how much is packed into just one powerful sentence. It secures 5 distinct rights. You've got freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. But it doesn't stop there. You also have the right to peaceably assemble and to petition your government. And think about it, these aren't just separate little rules. They're designed to work together to form the bedrock of a free and open society.
So, if the First Amendment protects your ideas, what about your physical self? Well, that brings us to our second theme, protecting persons and property. These are the rights that guard your home, your belongings, and your personal security from government intrusion. Next up, we have the Second Amendment. And while the most famous phrase is, of course, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, the full text actually starts with a preamble, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Now, the relationship between those two parts is really central to the ongoing and often heated debate about this right. Okay, here's one that might sound a little strange to us today, the Third Amendment. It says the government can't force you to house soldiers. Now, while that rarely comes up anymore, this was a huge deal for colonists living under British rule. It's such a powerful statement about the sanctity of your home, a clear line that the government just cannot cross. And this idea of personal space leads us right into the Fourth Amendment. This is what protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. It basically means the government can't just search you or your home on a whim. To get a warrant, they have to show a judge probable cause. That means solid evidence that points to a specific crime. It's your fundamental right to privacy. So, your home and your property are protected. But what happens if you're actually accused of a crime? Well, this brings us to a powerful shield of rights, all designed for any individual who has to navigate the justice system.
The Fifth Amendment is just packed with crucial protections. For starters, with serious crimes, a grand jury, a group of citizens, has to agree there's enough evidence to even bring charges. You can't be tried for the same crime twice, that's double jeopardy. And this one's famous. You have the right to remain silent to avoid incriminating yourself. Pleading the fifth. You're also guaranteed due process, which means the legal system has to play by the rules fairly. And finally, if the government takes your property for public use, they have to pay you a fair price for it.
Okay, so once you're charged, the Sixth Amendment kicks in to guarantee a fair trial. This means your trial has to be speedy and public in front of an impartial jury. The whole process needs to be transparent. You have the right to be told exactly what the charges are and to confront the witnesses against you. And, critically, you have the right to a lawyer to help defend you.
$20. Why is this number on the screen? Believe it or not, it's pulled directly from the Seventh Amendment. This amendment guarantees you a jury trial in civil cases, that is, non-criminal cases, if the dispute is over this amount. It's such a fascinating little snapshot of a different time, and it shows just how much the founders valued a jury of your peers, even for what seems like a tiny sum to us now.
And what about after a trial? That's where the Eighth Amendment sets the limits. It forbids excessive bail and fines, and it gives us this powerful and still debated phrase, no cruel and unusual punishments. The core idea here is actually pretty simple. The penalty has to fit the crime, and the government's power to punish is not absolute. For our final section, we're going to zoom out a bit, moving from specific rights to the very nature of power itself. You can think of the last 2 amendments in the Bill of Rights as the rules for the rules, because they define the fundamental boundaries of government authority. So let's look at these two side by side, because they're a really powerful duo.
The Ninth Amendment is this crucial safeguard that basically says, hey, this list isn't everything. Just because a right isn't written down here doesn't mean you don't have it. Then the 10th Amendment addresses the balance of power, saying any powers not specifically given to the federal government are kept by the states or by the people themselves.
So what does our user's guide tell us in the end? Well, it tells us that the Bill of Rights isn't some static, dusty list of rules. No, it's the foundation for a dynamic, ongoing conversation between a government and its people, a conversation about the meaning of freedom, security, and justice. And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question. These words were written in a world that looks vastly different from our own. So how do you see these 200-year-old rights shaping your world today?